Hello Sagittarius, this is Ashley. Let's get into your reading for the week of October 17th. So if you stick around to the end of this reading, I'm going to pull some cards specific to you when it comes to the full moon in Aries that's happening this week. But overall, we're just going to look at a strength, a challenge, and then a potential outcome for you for this week. Now, this will not resonate for every Sagittarius out there, so if it does not, I recommend you check your other placements. You can look at Sun, Moon, Rising, and Venus to get a full picture of what might be happening for you during this full moon week. And we are coming out of the Mercury Retrograde this week. Mercury and Jupiter will go direct on the same day, on the 18th. And so, if you recall, I did those Mercury Retrograde readings. So I will put that playlist at the end of this video in case you want to look at that post-shadow period that I talked about, because we'll be in that until November 2nd. But please leave me a comment, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. That way you are aware of every time I upload. The schedule is down below in the description box. But as I was telling, I think it was Leo, when it comes to bonus readings, I do those just sort of off of inspiration, intuitive hits or whatever. And so I just kind of do those unplanned, I guess. But either way, you'll be notified if you hit the bell. So let's get into your reading the week of October 17th. See what's going on. Cut the deck here. Alright, Sagittarius. We have Temperance, the Five of Cups, and the King of Swords. The Nine of Pentacles, the Four of Wands, and the Page of Swords, the Two of Cups, the Seven of Cups, and the Four of Swords. At the bottom of the deck we have the World. So some sort of cycle is coming to a completion here. And I'll speak to what I think that is here in just a moment. But you can see that the World card is the last major arcana in the tarot. And so essentially you've gone from the Fool all the way through to the World card, and you've completed some sort of cycle. And you can see she's kind of stepping through this victory wreath because she is, you know, finished with that particular part of her journey. So we'll kind of see how that is coming into play. Could certainly be dealing with an Aquarius, Scorpio, Taurus, Leo, because those are the fixed signs associated with the World card. Now, I do feel like, as perhaps part of this Mercury retrograde that we have just had in the sign of Libra, that perhaps something that you thought was complete came back up in the realms of a relationship here. Could be dealing with a Sagittarius, a Virgo. We also have some air on the table here as well. But I think that something you thought had ended wasn't quite done, and has kind of come back up for kind of review, essentially. And I do feel like the prospect of perhaps coming back into union with this person has you a little bit uneasy. But I do think things are looking more clear here in the outcome. So let's get into this. In the strength position, we have time to go, but it is in the reverse. And so you can see on this picture, this fairy is kind of walking down this foggy path. And it almost looks like a hovering bridge here. And it's surrounded in fog, but there's a door here at the end. And so it could have felt like you left a relationship with the Two of Cups showing up here in the strength position, but it wasn't quite completed yet. There was still some sort of unfinished business here. Now, with the World being at the bottom of the deck, we'll see how that's coming into play, because it could have been that you thought this was over and then psych, not quite. But it could be that it has come back in to kind of heal something, for there to be some more understanding that happens before it finally closes out. So let's get some more detail here. We have Temperance, the Nine of Pentacles, and the Two of Cups. So I do feel like you have been in this single energy, perhaps even for some time, kind of working on yourself, working on your own independence, your finances, you know, being essentially an independent person here. And perhaps even living on your own as well. But I feel like something has come back related to the soulmate, Two of Cups energy. And it does feel like perhaps some healing energy with that Temperance there. Now, with Temperance showing up, you may have actually been waiting for this person to come back around. Well, let's see. With Temperance, we are getting the Justice and the Nine of Pentacles, or excuse me, Wands. With the Nine of Pentacles, we're getting the Page of Swords and the Star. With the Two of Cups, we have the Ace of Pentacles and the Hierophant. So some Taurus, Aquarius, and Libra energy showing up here in the strength position. Now, it's kind of interesting because it's showing up as your strength, but I think that there was some sort of karmic situation here that wasn't quite balanced yet, and that is why it wasn't completely over with this person. There needed to be some sort of retribution, really, or even kind of reconciling of the differences, even if the intention was not to come back together, right? It was more that there's some sort of healing that needed to happen here. Now, with the Nine of Pentacles, the Page of Swords, and the Star card, we also have the Page of Swords in this outcome. And so I do feel like someone was probably keeping an eye on you and seeing how well you were doing, right? But I also feel like this person has specifically approached you with a message of wanting to heal things between the two of you. Now, it does feel like this person wants to commit, because it does feel like this counterpart is offering a new solid beginning here, perhaps even wanting to take the relationship to entirely new level of commitment with the Hierophant showing up. Now, I do feel like this is probably a strong soul partner here that you have dealt with in the past, because it is showing up with the Hierophant. That can also speak to being kind of on a spiritual journey with a person, like you've come together as karmic partners to teach one another a spiritual lesson. Now, with Justice showing up here and the Hierophant, I have to say that somebody here, there's a strong potential that this is someone who you were married to, and perhaps one of you wanted a divorce and the other one wasn't too excited about that idea. Maybe you went into a legal separation instead of a full-out divorce, and this person wants to come back together and recommit. Now it's showing up as the Strength here. So I have a feeling that on some level, even though you're kind of in this walls up, kind of guarded energy, that I feel like on some level you also have been wanting this healing to happen, even if it didn't guarantee any certain outcome. It was more about just kind of getting into the right space with this person, right? Now with that Nine of Pentacles, or gosh, I don't know why I keep calling it that. The Nine of Wands, I do feel like you probably spent a lot of time waiting for this person, being very patient and persevering to make this relationship work. And when it didn't happen, and you kind of went off on your own and you started doing your own healing work and kind of being more in this independent energy, you know, they were attracted back into you. And so you could feel a little bit guarded about them returning because you've done all this work on your own, because it didn't happen with them at the time that you were together, right? So it almost feels like a blessing and also a little bit of a curse here. And I think that's why it's also showing up in the challenge position, because I don't know that you have a lot of trust for this person, perhaps. We do have the Spirit Fox. It says, trust your talents in changing times. So I do feel like what you're being guided to recognize here is that because you've done the work on yourself and that you have come out of this situation in a strong position here, that you have the keen eye and the skills and the wherewithal to sort of get through this particular situation with this person. But, you know, with it being the fox, we always kind of think of like the sly, sneaky fox kind of energy. And so I think you've got your eyes wide open and keeping an eye on this person, kind of maybe even looking for any sort of, you know, ulterior motive kind of thing. We have the Five of Cups, the Four of Wands, and the Seven of Cups. Now, I do think there's still, you know, some regrets of the past with that Five of Cups there. But this person wants union with you. And perhaps this offers some opportunity here for additional healing to take place. But I do feel like you're not quite sure about it. You know, with the Seven of Cups here, you know, were they making you an option before? Are they still going to do it now? Like, why did they want to come back now? There's like all these questions coming up, and you're not so sure that they have your best interests at heart here, right? So let's see what else we can get. What do we have? The Five of Cups We have the Nine of Cups and the Wheel of Fortune. The Four of Wands. We have the Seven of Pentacles and the Queen of Pentacles. So some Capricorn energy showing up there. With the Seven of Cups, we have the Strength card and the Six of Pentacles. So I do think there's some fear showing up here that this person is perhaps just going to do the same things they did before. You know, are you going to get breadcrumbed by this person? Are they actually going to put in the time and effort that you're willing to put in? So I think that there's some fears about that. I think there's some confusion about what their motive is. And I think on some level you've kind of established yourself in this independent energy, like I was saying, and I think you're kind of also in this place of being, you know, like, I'm fine on my own. I've actually been doing really good on my own. And so to come together with this person means that you're back into a situation where you're both giving to it. And perhaps in the past you gave more than they did, right? With that Six of Pentacles showing up. And I think that that's something you want to avoid. Now, I do feel like this person wants to put in the effort here, wants to put in the time and see how this goes with you. But it's interesting, with this Five of Cups, we have the Nine of Cups and the Wheel of Fortune. And so it's like kind of having these like mixed feelings. Like you had regrets that it went down the way it did in the past. And I think this person does as well. And them coming back could feel like, oh, you know, I've always wanted them to come back and say, oh yeah, let's put in the work. I'll actually contribute my fair share this time. And that could feel like kind of a dream come true energy here. But I also kind of feel like, you know, there's these fears associated with that, because now that it's here, it's like you have to find somewhere within you the trust to even give this a go, right? And so it's kind of like this mixed bag of feelings coming up as a result of their return or this communication that they've come in with. So let's see what the potential outcome is here. We do have grateful optimism. It says joyous view of the future. So it does kind of feel like perhaps there's an opening of the heart here, and the allowance that this be a potential positive thing, right? Even if initially it wasn't something you felt like you could trust. And we have the King of Swords, the Page of Swords, and the Four of Swords. I do feel like there's going to be a lot of communication here. And I think that that needs to happen because there's all these questions, right? It's like, what's your motive? Why do you want to do this now? This is bringing up fears because I'm kind of doing fine on my own, and I don't really want to go back to being in an imbalanced relationship. So I do feel like there's a lot of communication that goes on in this outcome here. But I am curious to see what this King of Swords and this Four of Swords is doing here, because I do feel like this could mean a couple of things, and outright it's not jumping out at me. Like I'm not picking up a ton from this, so let's see. I do feel like there's clarity coming in, but you know, this King of Swords, he kind of removes himself on an emotional level to make a logical decision. So he kind of pulls himself out of this cup energy in order to just use logic to help make a choice here. And with all these swords here, I'm curious to see what that logic is, right? With the King of Swords, we have the Seven of Swords and the Nine of Swords. With the Page of Swords, we have the High Priestess and the Two of Cups. And with the Four of Swords, we have the Hanged Man and the Temperance card. Okay, so I do feel like, like I said, I feel like a lot of communication starts happening, a lot of questions being asked, and I do feel like there's some clarity that comes with that, because I feel like on some levels, some of your concerns that you had in the past, potentially about why this ended or whether or not they were being completely truthful, right? I think that conversation takes place. I almost feel like why did you leave comes up to question. Why did you leave the relationship? Why did you want to leave the relationship? I do feel like there's perhaps even been some suspicions that there was someone else. And that could have been something that was going through your head at the time that this relationship ended, like some suspicions of sneaky behavior, right? But what I feel like happens is that your perspective on how things looked when it ended gets cleared up. Things start to make more sense. And I do feel like that plays into the fact that Mercury retrograde is coming to an end. You know, as we get in that post-shadow period, things start to piece together that we may have missed before. And I feel like on some levels, some of the truth that gets spoken does confirm some of your suspicions. But I think I would say 90% of what gets communicated to you in this back and forth with this person is actually healing for both of you. Because I do feel like you had some suspicions of this person in the past that were not accurate. And it just was the assumption that you made based on the information you had, right? And perhaps they were not on speaking terms with you in the past so that you could even gain that clarity before. But I think what's happened is this person, it's like in their time away from you, as they've been kind of watching you as an independent person, I think they kind of come to this realization that you are their person. It's like the ending or the separation or whatever, take it as it resonates for your particular situation. But I think that the separation itself is what revealed to them that you are their soulmate, right? And then there's like this perspective shift that happens, this healing perspective shift. And so it's like suddenly you come out of this very challenged, wishy-washy, kind of fearful state where you're being like hyper vigilant about what their real motive is, and then as those conversations take place, then you're like, oh, okay, I see. You know, it at least makes sense. It doesn't mean that it's okay that it happened, but now you have the clarity, and I think that they do as well. It's like they had to lose you to figure out that you're the person they want to be with. So it does feel like a lot of healing is available here with the Temperance and the Four of Swords showing up. So if you are in a dynamic where you were married but in separation, I do think there's a potential to come back together, to maybe even renew vows here with some of these cards showing up. And it could very well be that the World card here is a completion of a past cycle between the two of you. Now, it's certainly going to be up to you if it also means the end of this relationship completely, right? You know, they may decide, I didn't figure out that you were really my soulmate until we weren't together anymore. And that may be healing information for you to know, and to clear up any of the confusion that was going on. You may still decide to move forward without this person, right? So I think either way, there is some sort of more optimistic view of the future as this cycle wraps up, whether you decide to be with this person or not. So I hopefully that made sense, Sagittarius. Let's look at your full moon message real quickly before we wrap this up. What do we have for Sagittarius for this Aries full moon? What does Sagittarius need to know for the Aries full moon? We have hold your vision, fixed moon. So definitely sticking to something, sticking to your guns on something. Let's get a couple of tarot cards to go with that. I'm going to pull from a fresh deck here. Okay. We have the Nine of Cups. The High Priestess. And we did have quite a bit of Pisces energy show up here in this last row. We had the High Priestess and the Hanged Man. So and the Knight of Wands. So it does feel like, oh, look at that, the World card at the bottom of the deck. So you may actually stick to not being with this person. Take it as it resonates. So it's kind of wherever you've been coming from. With that fixed moon saying hold your vision, it wants you to stick to your guns. Now, if you separated from this person and your dream come true, that Nine of Cups, which is also showing up again here, was for this person to come back, I think you're being advised to stick to that, you know, and realize that there's passionate, positive movement coming in that you may not yet see as a result of sticking to that. Now, if your stance has been the whole time, I'm never going back to that person, then stick to that. I mean, we do have the World card showing up here in two different decks, right? Which is, you know, follow your dreams at this point and take that passion forward with you, but it's okay to close out this relationship. So I do kind of see it from both sides here. So hopefully that was helpful, but I would stick to kind of the stance that you've been in up to this point. You know, have you been hoping that they would return, or have you been hoping that it's finally over? And then you'll know your answer, right? So I will see you in next week's reading, Sagittarius. I do believe it'll be the wrap-up reading for the month of October. But we will see. It'll at least be the the Halloween week coming in pretty quick. So I hope that was helpful. Don't forget to check out the post-shadow review of your Mercury retrograde reading. And I will see you next time. Bye.